Carlson is back to take a look at that new French government from the money angle.
Yeah, definitely, Melissa. We're going to be delving deeper into one of your headlines there. We're going to take a look at the duo that has been put in charge of the French economy. When the French government reshuffle was outlined earlier, Pierre Moscovici got the sack as finance minister. Instead, the veteran politician Michel Sapin will be taking that job. He will be working together with Arnaud Montebourg, who was then named economy minister. Montebourg is seen as a controversial choice. He was criticised when he blocked the takeover of French video sharing website by Yahoo last year. Earlier, I spoke to Antonio Barroso at the political risk consultancy Teneo Intelligence, and I asked him whether investors would be worried about Montebourg's appointment.
I think it's a little bit surprising for investors, given the well-known stance of Montebourg, negative stance, I would say, towards foreign companies and his criticism towards Brussels. I still think it's not going to be an issue. I think from the point of view of coordination, obviously the cacophony between the finance minister, Michel Sapin, the new finance minister, and Montebourg could be a problem. But at the end of the day, I think that Manuel Valls is going to be the one calling the shots, and that will probably fix the coordination issues between the two new finance minister and economy minister.
So you're saying that even though we may have these two names in the economy ministry, Michel Sapin and Arnaud Montebourg, you're not expecting a real break from the former policy, so to speak, of the French government?
Exactly. I expect a lot of continuity. Let's look, for example, at what are the main initiatives from the point of view of policy that François Hollande wants to implement in the coming months. One is fiscal consolidation, and for that he has appointed a close friend, Michel Sapin, someone that can actually speak for him in Brussels and try to enforce fiscal consolidation. And then the other important initiative is the Responsibility Pact, which falls under the competence of the Labour Ministry, which is going to be dealt by the new Labour Minister. So I think that obviously Montebourg will still have an impact in certain policy dossiers, but the most important policy dossiers are not going to be managed by him.
OK, that was Antonio Barroso speaking to me there from London earlier. Now, there's little sign that the biggest strike in the history of German airline Lufthansa will end early. Pilots are staging a 3-day walkout to protest against plans to scrap an early retirement scheme. Lufthansa has already been forced to ground hundreds of flights, and it expects 3,800 cancellations altogether through Friday. Lufthansa management says there'll be no further talks while the strike continues.
Based on past history, Lufthansa has come to a rather conciliatory approach in its union negotiations, but it can't really afford to do that. It needs to make permanent cost savings. Pilots are amongst the highest cost elements of the labour force for an airline, and when Lufthansa is competing against low-cost airlines in Europe and lower cost-base airlines from, for example, the Gulf and Asia, it has to do something to shift its own cost base for the future.
And we're going to stay in Germany next. That's where Angela Merkel's cabinet has agreed to introduce a national minimum wage at €8.50 per hour. Merkel herself has previously expressed concerns that a minimum wage would put pressure on hiring in Germany, but it was a key requirement for the Social Democratic Party to enter into a coalition government with her. The German parliament also needs to give the green light before this minimum wage comes into effect. If it does, the new wage is set to come into effect from 2015 onwards. We are going to take a look at the stock markets next, and in the United States, it's been a pretty choppy session so far. The markets, they were up earlier after news from payrolls firm ADP that the US private sector added 191,000 jobs in March. This is where we are this hour. The Dow Jones Industrial Average has gone back above the flat line. The Nasdaq, though, is completely flat, whereas the S&P 500 still showing some gains. Not a lot of those gains, though, around about 0.2% of gains we're seeing this hour. Now, this side of the Atlantic, the markets closed in a positive territory. European shares, they were higher on the hope that the US economy is strengthening. The Paris CAC 40 and the FTSE 100 in London didn't add too much, though. Let's talk you through a few other stories that we've been watching for you. The European Commission is punishing Goldman Sachs and the world's top makers of high-voltage cables. The Commission says the American bank and 8 Asian and European companies ran a cartel for almost 10 years. The aim had been to divide the market between them. Altogether, they are now being ordered to pay 302 million euros. The United States and the European Union have pledged to help Ukraine become less independent on Russian energy. In a thinly veiled jab at Russia, US Secretary of State John Kerry said that no nation should use energy as a political weapon. It comes after Russia's Gazprom hiked up the price of gas exports to Ukraine by more than 40% on Tuesday. The US and EU say they'll work on bringing natural gas to Ukraine from Poland and Hungary, as well as through Slovakia. OK, that is the business news for now, and it's back to you, Melissa.
Thank you very much indeed, Marcus Carlson, with a look there at the latest business headlines, 22 minutes past 9. We're going to have a look now at what's got people on the internet clicking. It's web news.